Hello, my amazing friends. Welcome to our channel, English Avenue, the place where you get inspiring, life-changing, and motivational stories that also help you improve your English. Today, I am bringing you one of the most powerful, emotional, and unbelievable success stories of all time. The story of Colonel Sanders and how he created KFC at the age of 65. But before we start, let me ask you something. Are you 25 and feeling like a failure? Are you 40 and still struggling, thinking it's too late for success? Are you jobless and feeling worthless? Do you look at successful people and think, maybe success is not for me? If you answered yes to any of these, then let me stop you right there. You are not a failure. You are not too late. You still have time. And today, I will prove it to you. Because Colonel Sanders, the man who created KFC, failed again and again his whole life. He was broke at 65. Jobless, no hope, no future. But at 65, when most people retire, he created a billion-dollar empire. Listen carefully, because after hearing his story, you will realize success has no age limit. Failure is just part of the journey. If you love inspiring and motivational content, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like this video so more people can see it. Comment below. I will never give up. To show your commitment, I bring you the best motivational and educational stories every day, so make sure you're part of this journey. Now, let's dive into the unbelievable story of Colonel Sanders, the man who turned failure into a billion-dollar success. The beginning. Let's go back in time to September 9th, 1890. A little boy named Harlan David Sanders was born in a small house in Henryville, Indiana, USA. From the very beginning, life was hard for him. When Harlan was just 5 years old, something terrible happened. His father passed away suddenly, leaving his mother alone with 3 children. Now imagine being a 5-year-old child, waking up one morning and realizing that your father is never coming back. His mother was heartbroken, but she didn't have time to cry. She had to work day and night to feed her children. And do you know what that meant for little Harlan? At just 5 years old, he had to take care of the entire house. He cooked for his family. He took care of his younger siblings. He did all the household chores. And this is where something amazing happened. Harlan discovered his love for cooking. But little did he know that this small love for cooking would one day change the world. School? Not an option. Harlan was a smart boy, but life didn't allow him to study. At 7 years old, he started working on a farm. At 10 years old, he was working as a full-time farmhand. And guess how much he was paid? $2 per month, yes. Just $2 for working the whole month. Can you imagine how hard his life was? By the time Harlan was 12 years old, he had enough. His mother remarried, and his stepfather was abusive. One day, he decided, I can't live here anymore. So at just 12 years old, he ran away from home. From here, his life became even harder. He worked as a streetcar conductor. He worked as a firefighter. He worked as a steam engine stoker. He worked as a soldier in the U.S. Army. He worked as a salesman, railroad worker, and insurance agent. He did everything, but he failed at everything. Every time he tried to settle in a job, something would go wrong. He was fired multiple times. He was broke again and again. By the time he was 40 years old, he still had nothing. Finally, at 40 years old, he got a small petrol station in Kentucky. He thought, this is my chance. He started selling fried chicken to travelers. And guess what? People loved his chicken. Slowly, word spread. More and more people came to eat his special chicken recipe. After so many failures, it looked like his life was finally changing. But then, something terrible happened. The government built a new highway. And just like that, his petrol station was finished. Once again, he was broke, jobless, and hopeless. But here's the thing about Colonel Sanders. He was not an ordinary man. He was a fighter. Instead of giving up, he decided to start again. But life was not done testing him. After losing his petrol station and restaurant, Sanders had to find any work to survive. At 44 years old, he got a job as a cook in a small cafeteria. At 48 years old, he worked as a dishwasher. At 50 years old, he worked as a motel manager. But every time he thought he had found stability, something would go wrong. He was fired. He lost money. He was forced to move to a new place. Nothing worked out. He even tried opening another restaurant, but a fire burned it down. Imagine this. You lose your father at 5. You are forced to work as a child. You run away from home at 12. You do 20+ jobs and fail at all of them. You start a business at 40 and it fails. You try again and it burns down. Most people would give up by now. They would say, maybe I'm just meant to be poor. But not Sanders. He refused to believe he was a failure. Even though his life was a mess, there was one thing he had that nobody else did. His secret fried chicken recipe. That recipe was special. People loved his chicken. So he had an idea. Instead of opening a restaurant again, he thought, what if I sell my recipe to restaurant owners and get a small commission on every piece of chicken they sell? It was a crazy idea. Nobody had done this before. But Sanders had nothing to lose. He was already broke. He was already failing. So, at 62 years old, he took his chicken recipe, put on his white suit, and started knocking on doors. You go to the next one, they laugh at you. You go to the next one, they tell you to leave. You go to the next one, they say, this will never work. And this happens again and again. 1 time, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. But he kept going. At an age when most people retire, he was traveling across America, sleeping in his car, eating cheap meals, and facing rejection every single day. The first yes. Then, finally, after 1,009 rejections, one restaurant owner said yes. And that was all he needed. That first yes changed everything. Slowly, one by one, more restaurant owners agreed to use his recipe. His idea was working. People started loving his chicken. And then, at 65 years old, something unbelievable happened. The birth of KFC. A businessman saw what Sanders was doing and offered to invest in his idea. Together, they created Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. And just like that, a man who was broke and jobless at 62 had built a multi-million-dollar business at 65. Just imagine. One day you are poor. Nobody respects you. Everyone laughs at you. And suddenly, you become the founder of a global brand. This was the beginning of something huge. Colonel Sanders had finally done it. At 65 years old, when most people retire, he had built Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, from nothing. The same man who had lost everything multiple times was now the founder of what would soon become one of the most famous food chains in the world. His unique way of frying chicken, with 11 secret herbs and spices, was something that nobody had ever tasted before. It was crispy, juicy, and full of flavor. People started lining up outside restaurants just to get a taste of it. Within a few years, KFC had hundreds of locations across America. By the time Sanders was 73 years old, KFC had over 600 restaurants. His dream was finally coming true. But there was one big problem. Colonel Sanders was not a businessman. He was a cook. He loved making chicken. He loved serving people. But he hated dealing with business problems. Running a huge company was too much for him. He was old and tired. He had spent his entire life struggling. And now, even after achieving success, he still had no peace. He was traveling across America, trying to manage everything, but he felt like he was losing control. The company was growing too fast, and he was too old to handle it alone. So he made a big decision. In 1964, at the age of 73, Colonel Sanders decided to sell KFC. He sold it to a group of investors for $2 million. That may not sound like much today, but back then, $2 million was a huge amount of money. In today's value, it would be around $20 million. But here's the shocking part. He sold KFC for just $2 million. But today, KFC is worth over $15 billion. Yes, you read that right. The brand he created was worth thousands of times more than what he sold it for. And this decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. After selling KFC, Colonel Sanders thought he would finally rest and enjoy life. He had money, he had fame, and he had success. But there was a big problem. The new owners of KFC started changing things. They started reducing the quality of the chicken. They started using cheaper ingredients to make more profit. And when Sanders saw what was happening, he was furious. He felt betrayed. KFC was his life's work. He had suffered for 65 years to build something amazing, and now, in just a few years, these businessmen were ruining everything. So, even though he had sold the company, he couldn't stay silent. He started publicly criticizing KFC. He even said, "That stuff they serve today is not my recipe. It's terrible." But no matter how much he complained, he couldn't take back the company. It was too late. He had sold it, and now he had to live with that decision. And that became his biggest regret. Even after selling KFC, Sanders didn't stop working. He was still passionate about food. So he started another restaurant called Claudia Sanders Dinner House, named after his wife. But legally, he could not use the name KFC anymore. Still, he kept traveling the world, visiting KFC locations, meeting fans, and spreading his story. He became one of the most famous and loved businessmen in the world. People saw him as a symbol of hard work, never giving up, and proving that success has no age limit. But soon, his time was coming to an end. In 1980, at the age of 90, Colonel Sanders passed away. His life had been a journey of pain, struggle, failure, and success. He had lived through the loss of his father at 5 years old, running away from home at 12, doing more than 20 different jobs and failing at most of them, starting his first business at 40 and losing it, going broke at 62 and sleeping in his car, getting rejected 909 times before finding success, becoming a millionaire at 73, regretting selling his company but still leaving behind an empire. Today, KFC has more than 27,000 restaurants in over 150 countries. It is one of the biggest food brands in the world. And it all started with one old man who refused to give up. What you can learn from his story. Age is just a number. Colonel Sanders didn't become successful until his 60s, showing us that it's never too late to start chasing your dreams. Failure isn't the end. Sanders faced rejection after rejection. But instead of giving up, he kept pushing forward, learning from each failure and improving his strategy. Persistence pays off. Sanders was rejected 1,009 times. Most people would have given up long before that. But he kept going, and that perseverance eventually paid off. Follow your passion. Sanders was passionate about cooking and serving delicious food. It was this passion that drove him, even in the toughest times. Believe in yourself. Despite facing obstacles that would have broken most people, Sanders believed in himself and his product. He refused to let others' opinions define his future. Colonel Sanders' story is a perfect example of what can happen when you don't give up. Whether you're 25 or 65, you have the power to change your life. You can take control of your future and make your dreams a reality. The only thing standing in your way is whether you choose to keep going or give up when times get tough. So, if you're facing struggles right now, remember this. You're not alone. You can still achieve your dreams. And no matter how old you are, you still have time to succeed. Take action today. If you're inspired by Harlan Sanders' journey, don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Take one small step today toward your dreams. Whether it's starting a new business, learning a new skill, or simply making a plan. Remember, success is not a straight line. It's a journey with ups and downs, but if you persist, you'll get there. No matter where you are in life, it's never too late to start again and make your dreams come true. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories that can change your life. And as always, don't give up.